Your account is overdrawn, Dad. The rent check bounced. Daniel said it without even looking up from his phone. We were sitting at the breakfast table in the house I bought him 5 years ago, the house I'd saved 30 years to afford, and my own son was telling me I was late on rent. In my own house? Let me back up for a second. My name is Robert, I'm 65 years old, and I spent 42 years as a civil engineer. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I had a pension, some savings, and a dream that my son would have the stability I never had growing up. When Daniel graduated college and got his first real job, I wanted to give him a head start. So I took out a chunk of my retirement fund and bought him a 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood outside of Portland. Paid $380,000 for it. Put his name on the deed because I trusted him. Because he was my son. That was my first mistake. For the first 2 years, everything was fine. Daniel lived there alone, came over for dinner every Sunday, called me when he needed advice about lawn care or the water heater. He seemed grateful. He seemed like the son I'd raised. Then he met Vanessa. Vanessa was a real estate agent, one of those people who see dollar signs before they see people. She was polished, professional, always talking about market values and investment potential. Within 6 months, they were married. Within a year, I was being asked to move out of my apartment. It doesn't make financial sense for you to pay rent when we have an extra bedroom, Daniel said. Just stay with us. We're family. I should have seen it coming. I should have asked more questions. But I was lonely. My wife had passed 3 years earlier, and the apartment felt empty. The idea of being around my son and getting to know my new daughter-in-law seemed nice. So I said yes. The first month was okay. They gave me the smallest bedroom, the one at the end of the hall that used to be Daniel's home office. It was fine. I didn't need much space. Vanessa cooked dinner most nights, and we'd eat together. Tyler, their son who was 6 years old, would sit on my lap and ask me to tell him stories about building bridges. It felt like family. Then came the conversation. Dad, we need to talk about finances, Daniel said one evening. Vanessa was sitting next to him on the couch, her laptop open. They'd clearly rehearsed this. We've been looking at our budget, Vanessa said, her voice sweet but firm, and with Tyler's private school tuition and the new car payment, things are tight. I nodded, waiting for them to get to the point. So we think it's fair if you contribute to the household expenses, Daniel said. Just rent and utilities. Market rate for a room this size is about $800 a month. I felt like I'd been slapped. Market rate? Daniel, I bought this house. For you? I know, Dad, and we're grateful. But the deed is in my name. Technically, it's my house. And you're living here, using our electricity, our water, our internet. It's only fair. Vanessa nodded along, like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. I wanted to argue. I wanted to remind him that I'd given him this house, that I'd sacrificed my retirement savings so he wouldn't have to struggle like I did. But Daniel had this look on his face, this cold, businesslike expression I'd never seen before. So I agreed. $800 a month. I told myself it was temporary, that they were just going through a rough patch. That was my second mistake. The next month, Daniel handed me an invoice. An actual printed invoice with line items. Rent, $800. Utilities, $150. Internet access, $40. Cleaning service, $60. Total, $1,050. Cleaning service? I asked. I clean my own room. I do my own dishes. The cleaning service comes twice a month for the common areas, Vanessa explained. It's only fair you contribute to that since you use the living room and kitchen. I paid it. I paid it because I didn't want to cause problems. I paid it because Daniel was my son and I loved him. I paid it because I kept thinking this was temporary. But it wasn't temporary. It got worse. 2 months later, they told me I couldn't park in the driveway anymore. We need both spots for our cars, Vanessa said. You can park on the street. My car was a 15-year-old Honda Civic. Theirs were a new BMW and a Mercedes SUV. But I parked on the street. Then they told me I couldn't use the kitchen after 7 p.m. because Vanessa needed it to be clean for her morning routine. So I started eating dinner at 5:30 like I was in a nursing home. Then, they told me I needed to keep my bedroom door closed at all times because Tyler's friends were coming over and it doesn't look good to have Grandpa's stuff visible. Each new rule came with the same explanation. It's our house, Dad. These are reasonable boundaries. I kept thinking about the $380,000 I'd given them. I kept thinking about how I trusted my son with my money, with my future, with my retirement security. And he was charging me to live in a house I'd bought for him. The worst part wasn't the money, it was the way they looked at me. Like I was a tenant. Like I was a burden. Like I was someone they were doing a favor for, not someone who'd given them everything. I started keeping to my room most days. I'd wake up early, before they were up, make coffee and take it back to my room. I'd read, watch TV on my tablet, anything to avoid being in the way. Tyler would knock on my door sometimes, asking if I wanted to play, and I'd hear Vanessa call him away. "Leave Grandpa alone, honey, he needs his privacy." Privacy. That's what she called it. Like I'd chosen isolation instead of having it forced on me. 6 months into this arrangement, Daniel knocked on my door with another invoice. "We're raising the rent to $1,200, he said. I stared at him. $1,200? Why? Market rates have gone up. Vanessa showed me comparable rooms in this neighborhood. This is actually below market value. Daniel, this is the house I bought you. And I'm grateful, Dad. I really am. But that was a gift. You can't hold a gift over someone's head. This is business now. If you can't afford it, I understand. We can help you find a nice senior living facility." A senior living facility. My son was threatening to put me in a home because I couldn't afford to pay him rent in the house I'd bought him. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in that small bedroom, listening to Daniel and Vanessa laughing downstairs, watching some movie on the 70-inch TV I'd helped them buy last Christmas, and I made a decision. I started doing research. I pulled up the deed to the house, the one I'd signed 5 years ago. I read every word, every clause, every piece of fine print I'd ignored because I'd trusted my son. And that's when I found it. The original deed had never been fully transferred. The title company had filed the paperwork, but there was a technicality. A co-ownership clause that had never been removed. Legally, I still owned 40% of the house. Not because I'd planned it that way, but because the lawyer I'd hired had put it in as a safety measure and I'd forgotten about it. 40%. Not enough to sell the house without Daniel's agreement, but enough to cause serious problems if I wanted to. I called my lawyer the next morning. His name was Martin, and he'd been handling my affairs for 20 years. "Robert, I remember this deed," Martin said when I explained the situation. "I specifically kept that co-ownership clause in there. I told you at the time to leave it for at least 10 years just in case. Did you ever remove it?" "No," I said. "Daniel and I never revisited it." "Then you're still a legal co-owner. That means he can't make any major decisions about the property without your consent. He can't sell it, refinance it, or even make structural changes without your signature." I felt something shift inside me. Not quite hope, but close to it. "What are my options?" I asked. "Well, you could force a sale of the property and take your 40% of the current market value. The house is probably worth close to $500,000 now, so that's $200,000 for you. Or you could leverage the co-ownership to negotiate better terms for yourself. Or," Martin paused, "or you could make things very difficult for him legally until he agrees to buy you out." I thought about the invoice sitting on my desk. $1,200 for rent. In my own house. "I want to force a sale," I said. "Are you sure? That's going to burn the bridge completely." "Martin," I said quietly, "my son is charging me $1,200 a month to live in a house I bought him. He treats me like a problem tenant. The bridge is already burned." The legal papers were filed 2 weeks later. Daniel came home from work one afternoon and found the notice taped to the front door. I was in my room, packing my things, when I heard him shout, Dad, what the hell is this?" I walked out calmly. Vanessa was standing in the hallway, reading over his shoulder. "It's a petition to force the sale of the property," I said. "I'm exercising my rights as a co-owner." Daniel's face went red. "You can't do this. This is my house. Actually, legally, it's our house. I own 40%. I never signed away my share. This is insane. Where did this even come from?" "From the original deed. The one you never bothered to read before you started charging me rent." Vanessa stepped forward. "Mr. Morrison, let's be reasonable. We can work something out. We'll reduce your rent back to $800. We'll give you access to the kitchen whenever you want. Just drop the petition." I looked at her, this woman who'd convinced my son to treat me like a stranger, and shook my head. "No. I'm done being reasonable. I'm done paying rent in a house I bought. I'm done being treated like I'm in the way. You want this house? You can buy me out. $200,000 for my share." Daniel laughed, but it was a bitter, angry sound. $200,000? We don't have that kind of money. Then the house gets sold on the open market, and we split the proceeds. Either way, I'm getting what's mine. The next 3 months were hell. Daniel hired a lawyer who tried to argue that my gift of the house constituted a transfer of ownership and that the co-ownership clause was invalid. But Martin had done his job well. The paperwork was airtight. The judge ruled in my favor. During those 3 months, I moved in with my old friend Tom. He was a widower too, had a spare room, and didn't charge me a cent. We played chess in the evenings and complained about our ungrateful children. It was the most peace I'd had in a year. The house sold for $490,000. After fees and the remaining mortgage that Daniel had taken out without telling me, I walked away with $173,000. Daniel and Vanessa got the rest, but it wasn't enough to buy another house in that neighborhood. Last I heard, they'd moved to a 3-bedroom apartment across town. Tyler had to switch schools. Daniel called me once. About 2 weeks after the sale closed. "I hope you're happy," he said. "You ruined our lives over money." I was quiet for a long moment. Then I said, "I gave you a house, Daniel. A whole house. Free and clear. And you charged me rent to live in it. You itemized my existence like I was a line on a budget spreadsheet. You made me feel like a burden in a home I'd provided for you. So no, this isn't about money. This was never about money." "Then what was it about?" "Respect," I said. "It was about respect. And you couldn't even give me that." He hung up. We haven't spoken since. I used the money to buy a small 2-bedroom condo near the river. It's mine, completely mine, with my name alone on the deed. I have a guest room for when Tom visits, and I've started volunteering at the community center, teaching math to kids who need help with their homework. Some of them remind me of Tyler. Sweet kids who just need someone to pay attention to them. I wonder if he remembers me, if he asks about Grandpa. I wonder if Daniel tells him the truth, or if he's painted me as the bad guy in whatever story he's constructed. It doesn't matter anymore. I learned something important through all of this. I learned that love without respect isn't love at all. It's obligation. It's transaction. It's a father giving everything he has because he thinks that's what family means, and a son taking it because he thinks that's what he deserves. I also learned that standing up for yourself isn't cruel, even when it feels that way. Even when your son calls you selfish. Even when you lose your relationship in the process. Because the alternative is living the rest of your life being small, being quiet, being grateful for scraps of dignity in a house you paid for. The hardest part isn't losing Daniel. The hardest part is accepting that I never really had him in the first place. Not the way I thought I did. The son I raised, the one I'd have done anything for, wouldn't have treated me like a problem to be managed. He wouldn't have reduced our relationship to invoices and market rates and boundaries that only applied to me. So I'm here now, in my little condo, drinking coffee on my balcony, every morning and watching the river flow past. I'm here, and I'm free, and I own every square inch of this space. Nobody can charge me rent. Nobody can tell me when to eat or where to park or to keep my door closed because my existence is inconvenient. And you know what? For the first time in 5 years, I feel like myself again. If you're out there dealing with something similar, if your kids are treating you like you're lucky to be tolerated, if you've given everything and somehow ended up with nothing, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone your dignity. Not even your children. Especially not your children. They say blood is thicker than water, but respect is thicker than blood. And if your own family can't give you that basic human decency, then maybe it's time to build a new family. One that sees your value. One that doesn't hand you invoices for the privilege of existing in their presence. I lost my son. I won't lie and say that doesn't hurt. But I found myself again. And in the end, that mattered more.